Good evening, witches, warlocks, sorcerers, adepts, friends, fans, family, and followers to Season 3, Episode 6 of the hit underground occult radio show known as Knights of the Nephilim, brought to you by Brutal Business and Celestial Oddities Radio, bringing you 100% real and raw underground entertainment. As always, I will be your host and guide on this obscure and mysterious journey into magic and mysticism, darkness and divination. I am Reverend Frater Crow of the Coterie of Samil Arcane Occult Order, and I want to thank you for listening in tonight. Whether listening live or streaming after the fact, or you downloaded this to your device for on the go, I do want to thank you for your patronage and support, but please make sure you click the like, share, and follow button on whatever platform you're listening in from, whether it be iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Deezer, Spreaker, CastBox, Google Play, Amazon Podcasts, or any of the other platforms in between that I might have missed. We air across absolutely everywhere, so like I said, feel free to listen where you please, but by clicking those buttons, it moves us up the podcast community rankings, allows more people to discover the show, keeps you in the loop with new episodes as they air, and gives you unfiltered access to our past archives, not only of this show here, Knights of the Nephilim, based upon esoteric science, occult doctrine, and ritual magic, bringing on, talking with, and interviewing the biggest and best names in occultism, from ritual tool makers and practitioners, theologians, authors, and more, or be one of our other shows like Celestial Oddities, The Pong, Pair of Normal Guys podcast, centered around the deep dive into supernatural and paranormal phenomena, interviewing professionals within that field, and even taking on listeners' calls like our last night's episode, where we hear the experiences and encounters with the strange and unusual of folks like you around the world calling in to share your experiences, and it was a hell of an episode. So if you missed yesterday's episode, jump back and check it out. Or it'd even be our last radio show that we run called Uncovering the Underground, where we talk with and interview artists from music to modeling, stars of the big screen, comedy, oddities, and everything in between. We aim to please, and we give something for absolutely everyone out there. So like I said, please click the share buttons and share that around. Get the word out there, because you are the lifeblood that keeps underground entrepreneurs and artists like myself going, and I really appreciate it, and it means a lot to me. If you are listening out there and you want to interact with the show this evening or on any of our shows, as I said, you can listen from anywhere you like, but the one place you can talk with us during the show is through Spreaker. Spreaker is spelled S-P-R-E-A-K-E-R, so like speaker with an R, and that is our hosting platform. You can go through Spreaker.com or the Spreaker app on the app market. That'll allow you to listen to the show, but it does give you an instant messenger feature that you can talk with us during the show, give your input, interact, and ask our guests each and every week questions, and I will read all of those things off live on the air. So please, if you're listening out there and want to join the show, jump on into Spreaker and join us. If you have any suggestions of what you want to see us do, not do differently, people you want to see us have on the show, drop us a line at celestialoddities@gmail.com. Again, that is celestialoddities@gmail.com. We bring you a show every other Thursday night, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the weeks in between, we bring you Celestial Oddities, Pair of Normal Guys. So every week you have a radio episode coming your way, staggered. So tonight is a special episode, though, for us, because we did air an episode last week of Knights of the Nephilim, but we wanted to come back for the special annual Samhain edition. Now, not only is it a special edition in general because of the time of the year, the thinning of the veil, and it being a very satanic holiday, but we did a special last year for the Samhain edition where the gentleman who's on with us this evening was also the guest of that edition of the Samhain edition also. You're probably seeing a theme here because he was one of my favorite living occultists at this time, one of my favorite occult authors. I believe this man has done so much work, and such resonance comes from his work in the satanic field and in occultism, and I'm talking about the one and only Aleister Nacht. Now, before we jump into a little bit more about Aleister and bring him on the show, we do want to thank our sponsors, Limitless Liberation, Goetic Impressions, The Telemancer, Arachne Arcane Services, Ars Gnosis, and Belladonna's Botanicals. Throughout this evening, we will take a mini break to listen to a mini commercial about each and every one of these sponsors, who they are, what they do, where you can check them out, And if we have any type of special promo codes, we'll make sure to drop them for you, save you a little bit of money on your next order. Now, Aleister Nacht is a Theistic Satanist, Satanic Magus, and leader of a regional coven comprising of numerous groups located in Florida. With a modern view of Satanism, he brings the darkness to life in a very tangible way. His books have found favor with a multitude of searchers crossing all demographics and geographic boundaries. We had him on last year, and we got into some great conversations, and this evening we'll be talking about the different paths that make up Satanism and the left-hand path, and how they all are aiming for very similar goals through different methods, and all are profound in their own right, and that's what we'll be peeling into tonight on this episode. So before we begin, grab your ritual athames and put on your ceremonial attire, light your candles and focus your desire. Step into the circle and intone the sacred names, give offering and praise, and stare into the flames as we begin to conjure the spirit that is Aleister Nacht.
Locked behind that door.
Horror. No normal mind can imagine something even more terrible than you.
Now my default vent. Like all quantities, horror has its ultimate. And I'm that.
There is a horror beyond yours. And it's in there. Locked behind that door.
And good evening, folks. We are live with Season 3, Episode 6 of Knights of the Nephilim radio show. And this evening we have my good friend, Aleister Nacht. Welcome to the show again, my brother.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure. I couldn't see having anyone else, if I'm going to have a Samhain edition, than you, my man. Like I said, you are someone that I truly cherish his work. I love what you do out there. I love the boundaries that you've been able to push with your books and with your work. So thank you.
But thank you. It's an honor to be here.
So how have things been since the last time we spoke? It was almost exactly 1 year ago. I think we are 2 days short of exactly 1 year.
Yeah. It's been busy. Very, very busy. I had some health challenges, and thanks, Satanas, I'm okay now. I have been really, really busy interviewing people of the left-hand path. I really enjoy doing that. Have some great guests, and it's just an opportunity to kind of share from a spectrum of the left-hand path. So
I've been able to watch some of your episodes, and they have been awesome. I mean, I've enjoyed seeing the different guests that you've had on. Love seeing you have fun with it. You know, that's what it's all about. That's why I do it as well, is I enjoy not only providing a great quality content to my listeners out there about stuff that I enjoy, but I just love to meet people like yourself, become friends, and to be able to kind of shoot the breeze back and forth and compare notes, because I feel that everyone involved always is taking away something from it and growing from it. And really, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If a person can open their mind to all of the possibilities, and, you know, I think today a lot of people struggle with really opening up. Everyone is so guarded. And sometimes you just have to open up and take a chance, you know. I know in some of those interviews, people have said, you know, you you look like you're having a great time, and then some say, you look goofy, and it's like, okay, that's okay. You have to be a little bit vulnerable and just put yourself out there. But I think at the end of the day, the content speaks for itself.
It does, and that's with all of your work. And I mean, it's one of those things, especially within occultism, that I don't think a lot of people know how to take the practitioners that they maybe follow. So you could read, a dozen of your books and love what you do and it resonate and follow your practices and guidelines, but they have no idea who you are as a person. So the first time that they get to hear you on a radio show like this, or they get to see you on a YouTube, stream, they already have kind of crafted the character that they believe you are. So it throws them for a loop whenever you're different than that. And I love that, possibility with podcasts and vlogs and things like that, because it gives the fan a different side than they would normally ever have gotten the chance to see. And I think it's equally as valid as the work itself.
I agree. I do agree. I think you're spot on with that. That's been a lot of the feedback is, well, Aleister, you seem so human and down to earth. It's like I'm just a person. I guess what you were describing, when people do read books and they see that you're in different places and I don't want to say get starstruck, because that's certainly not the case with me. But I do think that you're right. They have a certain expectation or a certain view, or maybe a certain preset notion of how I'm going to be. Some people have said, well, I expected you to come out in, all black and a hood and, all this kind of stuff. And I said, well, I do that, but just not on, Now, I will do that this Sunday night. I'm having a live event on YouTube, and I'm actually giving a satanic blessing for Samhain. And, I'll be doing an abbreviated ritual video. And so it's an opportunity for anyone to set up their altar and join in with me. Satanist has been really good and really has blessed the ministry. And I want to give back.
I love that. Folks, if you're listening out there and free on Sunday night, please join Aleister for his ritual. If you haven't seen any of his workings in the past where he's done Samhain rituals, we had talked about this on last year's show, and there wasn't going to be one last year because, as he had said, he was facing some health issues at the time, and it got skipped for that year, but he is back again, and this is something he normally does do. So if you've missed it or haven't seen it before, it is very powerful. You can join along with him, and I think you will enjoy yourself. If I am able to catch it, I certainly will. I do have kind of my own festivities planned for a very large ritual on Sunday, but depending upon timing and things around that, I might be there with you as well. But I kind of jumping back to what we were just saying, I think it's the Hollywood syndrome, brother. I think that people, they make up they see that actor, and they see all the different characters that actor plays without ever realizing at the end of the day that is a regular person. So with occultism, they think of the Ookie Spooky syndrome. They think like, okay, Aleister is in a robe and he's holding his athame and he's calling to Satanists, but they don't realize at the end of the day you're eating dinner just like everyone else. You're waking up in the morning and putting your shoes on like everyone else, and it's funny to me that they get that. And you have practitioners who fall on both sides of the spectrum. You have you and I who actually like to be very personable and show our vulnerability and just show that we are regular people. And yes, we do have a great deal of knowledge because we're versed in our field, but we are regular folks. But you do also have that opposite side that won't come onto podcasts, that don't do many public appearances because they like to have that image that they're the monster, they're the beast. They stay out of the public eye because they want people to be kind of afraid of them and think that they're this larger-than-life dark character. And we all have that as a part of us, but I think it shows more power to put yourself out there than to hide away.
Oh, yeah. I definitely agree. You're taking a chance when you do that because, I mean, let's be honest, there are a lot of trolls out there.
Yes.
And, they get a lot of pleasure from, just basically pissing on everything someone does. But if you're honest and true to yourself, I think, at least in my experience, people can see that. They can see that you're genuine, and they can see that, your heart's in the right place. Like with live events, I'm always scared shitless because you never know. I've got a couple people that help me, and but it could be the internet connection, it could be OBS, something could totally fuck up, and here you are, and everyone is here to watch and see and listen, and it goes off the rails. Those things scare me to death, but when they come off well, I really enjoy them. I really do.
I do as well. And you know what, though? I trust me, I am right there with you with the unexpected. Lately, I've been experiencing some very strange happenings. And last night, the episode of Celestial Oddities was one of them. Last week on Nights of the Nephilim, I interviewed the high priest of the International Church of Lucifer, Patrick Geofero. And so both of these episodes, as soon as we started, my connection was fine. And it immediately, welcome to the show, Patrick. How are you doing? Call dropped. He came back on, call dropped. Came back on, call dropped. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Last night, we had a call-in episode where we were taking calls from people from Mexico, from Paris, France, and in different areas of the world to tell us about their experiences with paranormal phenomena. And we were having all kinds of connectivity issues. We were having just a massive shit cloud kind of over us. And it's like one of those things, we're live, you know what I mean? So you just got to go with it and make the best of it. Now, most people said that, obviously they could hear that there was connection issues, but we handled it very well, doing this long enough that I don't really let it faze me. But what's strange about it is not only is that happening, but recently, I have been removed from several platforms of social media without my doing. Facebook was one of them. I've been permanently removed from their database. I'm not allowed a Facebook account anymore. I don't know why. I was not given a reason. My account was instantly deleted and removed, and I am allowed no further accounts at this time. They tried to take down my other business. They took down several of my business accounts on Facebook. Brutal Business has been around for about 10 years. They tried to take that one down. Luckily, it's still there as of right now. They tried to remove my Instagram, and I've been having issues with Twitter as well, which I don't even use, other than reaching out to you to connect for the show. So something's been going on with that, and then I've been experiencing all these connectivity issues, and I'm like, man, it's a hard life sometimes for someone who does nothing but live broadcasting. I'm like, how am I supposed to work with these issues? But luckily, you're here this evening. It sounds like our connection is good as of right now. No, I understand it. You have to put yourself out there. Without the risk, there's no rewards. And I love the fact that you believe in that as well.
Yeah. And, speaking of strange things, I experienced the same thing. And, I just attribute it to the media. But, I experience things like shadow banning. Obviously, I get trolls left and right. A lot of people, will swing in and leave a comment or something trying to provoke some kind of response. It's just, it seems like it is so hard to have a presence out there. You know, freedom of speech is just not very free. And, you know, it's getting more and more that a few control everything.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we on the left-hand path, we become targets. And, you know, yeah, it's really scary, I guess.
And it's funny because, I mean, a year or two ago, people were saying that there's modern witch hunts again. And I mean, the people that I was seeing being affected by this were people who kind of put themselves out there in ways that they almost deserved it. Now, I hate to say that because I hate to say like, oh, it was warranted and they should go after anybody on the left-hand path. Not at all. But there were people who were presenting themselves, their company, and what they do in a way that we all kind of knew eventually was going to kind of crumble on them and cause a shitstorm. But, you know, I do see it from a different angle now, where there is a lot of people that are not necessarily playing this LARPer role or this larger-than-life fantasy role, who are true practitioners, who are speaking truth in their messages and what they present, and they're being silenced. Pages disappearing, posts disappearing, video content just vanishing, death threats, all kinds of different things, and I'm certainly one of them. And it is interesting to see. And as you said, there's always going to be these trolls out there that try to invoke responses, whether it's just regular internet trolls or it's people working for other people that can try to use that as ammunition to ban you. But you're right when you say that there are a few that are trying to control the many. And when you're coming from a left-hand path perspective, especially when you're very open to speak about it, you will face some opposition. And I've openly spoke about, obviously, my beliefs of the left-hand path, my beliefs in diabolism and devil worship, my disbelief, or I shouldn't say disbelief, but distrust and distaste for Christianity and Catholicism. And I've spoken very avidly and openly about it. And I can only think that that is a huge part of the reason that I have been removed from some of the platforms that I have.
Yeah, probably so.
But that's okay. You know, it actually did me a favor, to tell you the truth. I mean, here's one of the things I look at is Facebook has become a toxin to the public. And even if you know that and consciously say to yourself, like, yeah, I spend too much time on this damn site and I don't even want to be on here, you still end up thumbing that screen at least an hour a day or a half an hour a day or whatever it might be, because you get bored, and instead of going outside and enjoying the world or doing something else of progress, you just thumb that screen. And they removed me, just poof, gone. 15 years of my life vanished. But instead of being angry like so many people ask me, I'm like, this is great. It's really put a damper on me promoting my shows. Let me tell you that. It's made it very difficult. But I've worked obstacles around those obstacles to be able to still do that in some sort or another. And I'm learning new methods. It's all about, adaptation. But I look at it now like I don't even have the choice to get on, and I've gained back so much more of my life that I didn't even realize I was missing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I take time away from social media, and it is, and then it's a drudgery to have to go back. It's like running on a treadmill, and you can never get off. Especially when you're promoting, your shows and things like that, or product, or live events. If you stay off of social media for a certain amount of time, you're irrelevant. You disappear. And but it is a drudgery to stay up with it. And I don't see how some of these creators, they do a weekly or even twice a week. They post something, and then the other time they're writing, and then, they're promoting that and doing an interview and doing this, that, and the other. I don't see how they do it.
It's tough. And I mean, honestly, for the longest time, just as you said, it would be a matter of even if I walked away from it for a little while, I'd have to come back because I'd be like, well, how many messages do I have? How many notifications am I getting behind on? Do I have to get back to? And all of these things and all these distractions. And now I don't have to worry about that. I have other people helping me do it, so it's been a relief in that regard. So I would like to say a special thank you to Natasha Sarver, who is the owner and operator of Little Shop of Lilith in Butler, Pennsylvania. That is a metaphysical and witchcraft shop. She is my creative director at this point, and she is taking care of reaching out to most of my guests, booking them, doing promotion and marketing, and a lot of other aspects of the radio. Now that I always did myself on top of the interviews, now I can focus on the interviews itself, which to me is the best, and she's focusing on the content. Now, for you, I reached out myself because, like I said, this is one that I wanted to set up. I have a high respect for you, so I wanted it to be face-to-face between you and I, but it has been so nice to get away from that. And one of the things I don't miss, and this is no offense to you listeners, but the 100 messages I would get a month from listeners, from fans, from followers, asking me the dumbest shit that you could ever possibly read. and then feeling like if I don't answer, I'm an asshole. If I do answer, what do I say to this person? And it was always like the same things. What demon do I call to get my boyfriend or girlfriend back? What do I do to become financially stable? What spirit do I call upon for this? I'm like, read, research, start stepping into the circle and doing your own rituals and discover for yourself. But it was like an endless monotony of just help me, help me, help me, help me. And now I'm like, you can't even reach me because I don't have any platforms to reach out to me on it. So, folks, if you're out there and you're one of these people, sorry about it. You can't reach me, but you can still listen to me each and every week. So I wanted to poke a little bit of fun there, but no, that is definitely a truth that I'm happy to be away from some of that and just focus on what's important, which is the content itself, not so much the promotion. I might not get as many people listening these days, but to me, that's not what it's about. It's about for the ones who are meant to find it, they will.
That's the key. You know, the ones that find it and stay with you. I mean, I have several Patreons that have been with me since the very beginning, from the time that I started my Patreon. And they never waver. Even when I was sick, you know, I didn't post anything. I just didn't feel up to posting any content. But they were right there, you know, unwavering. That, to me, says more than the people that come and go.
Yes.
I was talking to Magus Cygnus, who is he's a Magus and a high priest in our coven, and we were talking about, you know, how people come and go from this path, and you know they come in, they're really excited, they're gung ho, they want to, you know, just change the world, and they want to absorb everything, and they want you to stop what you're doing and teach them one-on-one. And in 3 months, they're on to something else.
Yep.
You know, it's almost like a revolving door, and you've got a core group of people that stay, they're constants all the way through. But the majority of people, they come and go. You know, I think for a lot of people, the left-hand path is entertainment.
Yes, I agree.
And just like you would not want to go to a movie 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's the same thing with this. They come into it. It's something, you know, spooky, something different, something taboo. And they try it for a while, and then when they figure out that, well, you know, it didn't make me super wealthy, and, you know, I haven't really got what I wanted to get, then they're on to something else, you know.
Well, and you know, you hit the nail on the head, is that, you know, just like you wouldn't want to go to the movies all day, every day, I think that also movies and pop culture are a big part of setting people up for failure. They think that, okay, I'm going to learn a little arcane knowledge and I'm going to do some spell casting here and there. I'll do a couple rituals a month, or I'll do a few a year, and I'll have all these amazing things manifest in my life. And then they start to really dig into it, and they're like, oh, wow, this material's dense, and there's a lot to learn. And I read this book, and it actually gave me more questions than it did answers, and now I have to read 15 more books, and I wasn't planning on researching that much. And then they start to try to learn what's it take to do ritual. And I mean, for the students that I've taught over the years, or that I give advice to, one of the first things I say is throw all of that out the window, your expectations, your beliefs, because we're going to start from the core basis. And over the next 3 months, you are going to simply just learn how to quiet your mind. You're going to learn how to sit in meditation and destroy the monkey mind and learn to be in complete stillness. You're going to learn how to do trance-like gaze and reach different trance-like states, and be able to take back the power that you are without realizing you are yet. And you know, everybody's when's the rituals start, and when do we talk to demons and all these things. I'm like, a long time from now, a very long time from now. You need to learn how to open the faculties of your own higher mind, and as you do that, that's when you make communion with demon spirits. But until you learn how to tap into those higher subtle levels of self, it won't matter if I teach you how to conjure, because you won't know it when they're here. And a lot of people, like you said, within 3 months they're out. They're like, yeah, never mind, this sucks. And they don't realize it's a discipline. That is the number one thing I teach anyone, is that if you do not have a daily discipline, you will go nowhere in this practice. You can't be a weekend warrior. You can't be someone who only does ritual meditation and focus 1 day a week on Saturday. You have to be someone who lives this as a part of your life. It is not this exciting, crazy thing aside from your life. It becomes embedded into your life. You live and breathe it. It's like brushing your teeth. It's like getting dressed in the morning. It is a part of the fabric of your life. And if you can't make it that, then you're not really going to make it within that.
That's right. Absolutely.
But you know what? That's okay, because I don't think, you know, obviously everyone is cut out for this lifestyle. Very few are. You know, and it's people will ask me, what do I feel about Satanism? And it's funny, the answer that I'll give them. I'll say it's my favorite subject and it's my least favorite subject. And they're like, what the hell does that mean? It depends on the light within, or it depends on the light that's shining on it and how it's talked about and who you are talking about it with, whether I like it or not. Someone like yourself, we're shining the light of our eternal infernal flame on it, the black flame, and I know it's going to be a great conversation, and you're someone I respect, and we can have an educated conversation. But you also have a lot of people who don't really understand what it's like, and as you said, it's become this fad where I can throw on black clothes and I can be gothic looking and I wear satanic clothing and I yell "Hell Satan," and it become this character that I play that everybody's kind of afraid of me that I know, and I get all this extra attention when I go places and people stare at me. A lot of people are culture vultures. They feed off of that look, but whenever you say, when's the last time you performed a ritual, or what do you actually know about Satanism or diabolism, they know nothing, yet they call themselves Satanists, and it's a mockery. So I do have a problem with that, but for those who truly take it to heart and practice it, it'll be the biggest life-changing thing you've ever done.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think a lot is style and fashion. And, you know, that power that a person feels when they put on some, you know, some black clothing or something like that, and how people around them react to that. Yeah, but they really miss out. I mean, a lot of people really, really miss out on a wonderful journey. I mean, over the decades, I've been so satanically blessed. And, I mean, I could not see my life being any different. And, you know, not a lot of people can say that. about their life.
I think it just depends on I was telling a group of students the other day, my friend, she is giving a 8-week course on the basics of starting your own discipline and learning witchcraft, and she asked me to make a video and present it for her class, which actually I think airs this evening for her class. And I was saying that you certainly get out of it what you put in, and if you are devout in your practice, you actually will get tenfold what you put in. And it will be a life changer, but it's not going to be easy. It'll be the hardest thing you've ever done. But as you said, Aleister, I couldn't imagine my life without the blessings of Satanists. I couldn't begin to think of who I would be without the path that I have lived for so long at this point, without the influence and the connection and the conversations and gnosis that I have gained through countless rituals, through thousands of hours of meditation and reading and stepping into the circle. I mean, it has, like I said, become a part of exactly who I am. When I'm not spending time with my family and I'm not working, there is nothing else I do other than my practice.
Right.
And it's been a blessing journey. I mean, I love it wholeheartedly, and it's certainly brought me to places I never thought I would be. And as you know, for you, I would imagine it's the same, not only just in general, but as our last conversation, you said about your friend, rest in peace, Lightning, who had, kind of convinced you to start writing. And I'm sure if you look from then to now, I mean, how much of a journey and how much Lord Satan has been a part of that journey to bring it to the masses and to bring you to where you are today, which I believe, and I'm not saying this to jerk you off or anything, but as far as Satanism goes, and I read a lot of different workings, you are one of the realest cats out there right now writing on a very powerful scale and plentiful scale about true theistic Satanism, about devil worship, and presenting a good product that people can learn it and learn it the right way. And, obviously that is very much you, but you can see the influence that he has had in your journey.
Oh, absolutely. Everything happens for a reason. If you walk through the door, that is all Satanas wants. Some people will ask a question like, well, what do I need to do? How do I perfect this? How do I perfect ritual? How do I perfect this? How do I do this? And, the best advice I can give them is just do it. Yeah. Don't worry about perfection. I had someone ask, can I do a ritual without candles? I can't burn candles. And it's like, absolutely. The candles are not what Satanas is looking at. He's looking at your desire and your sincerity about what you're wanting to do. That is what he appreciates, and that's what he blesses. You don't have to worry if you don't have a robe, you don't have candles, you don't even have an altar. It's in the mind, and it's between you and him. And that's all that really matters. Everything else is aesthetic. Everything else helps to put you in the mood. It feeds your heart and your will. But, it's not about that. It's just about stepping out and doing it. He can do more with motivation than he can do with knowledge or wisdom or anything else, because you will gain those things if you have motivation. You'll gather the knowledge. You'll gather the wisdom. If you're motivated to do that, the sky's the limit.
I agree. And like you said, it's just aesthetics. I mean, those things certainly will help add on to your practice, but they are not needed to have a one-on-one connection. And you know what? One of our sponsors, Aragni Arcane Services, which is Baron and Baronessa Aragni, they wrote in a book called The Etheric Keys about having an on-the-go altar in a bag, a temple in a bag, and having very small items that represent the same larger scale items like the athame and other items, you know, in your temple that you can take with you that is very easy to carry or have in your car. And, you know, maybe you don't have the opportunity to light candles in your home, but if you're ever just sitting somewhere, you have a half an hour to kill and you're by a park, you can go and you can go to a very quiet area and you can have small little candles that you can light, and you can bring out your small tools and you can have a one-on-one or do a small scale ritual. Or even if you don't have the candles, that's fine as well. But it's about the sincerity and the intent of your desire that Satanists will connect with. And that's a big part of it, is just being sincere about your connection. Don't look at this as an ooky spooky path. Don't look at this as something that you're you know, a badass for doing. Look at this as your faith. Look at this as something that you believe in and you give your heart, body, and mind to in your effort, and it will be reciprocated. And that's one of the very first steps, that when someone knows they want to do this path. You have a lot of people who get into it, as you said, Aleister, and jump out quick. But when I have a student that I know is dedicated, I say at this point, this is when you need to have your one-to-one deep conversation. You need to call forth the powers of Satanis, and you need to let him know what you are seeking in this path. But my students that get to that point know they're not asking for earthly riches, and they're not asking for love. They're asking for inner illumination and growth. They're asking for wisdom and gnosis. And if you tell him in a sincere way that I want to connect with you and do what I can to extend the black flame across this world and to wake as many other of the serpent bloodline as I can, and you are sincere about it, you will begin to notice profound changes over the next week, month, and years of your life. But it's about sincerity, and you have to go about it with a clear and sincere mind. Now, folks, one other thing I will say is drop the dogmatic roots that have been thrown on you. The biggest, and that's why I say I probably get canceled so much, is that I tell you that Christianity has been a black plague on this world because of the fact of how they've made you view things. Satanist is not going to condemn you and want your soul. He's not going to throw you in an everlasting fiery hell. Because let me give you a quick tidbit of information. Hell didn't exist before Christianity. They invented it. And they make you believe that if you try to do anything outside the bounds of what they teach, you will burn in an everlasting fiery hell of their own creation. They use fear to monger you into obedience, and that's how they keep you here, and that's how they bring you back again and again. That is the exact opposite of what connecting with the satanic current or the left-hand path current will teach you and what you will become. It is freeing of all of those dogmatic chains. It is the eye-opening realization of who and what you are beyond your egoic self. And it allows you to open up like a flower and absorb that black light and grow into something magnificent without bounds. So it is a mind fuck because it's an inverted belief that you've always been told the exact opposite of the truth in such a firm way that it sounds like truth. But when you start to actually work with these currents, you realize it's all been inverted. And I know that you probably read that, most of you out there, but you will really start to understand that as you work with Satanis and you really allow him into your life. He will teach you the lies that you've been spoon-fed, or most of us have, since birth, which is exactly what they wanted. It's those dogmatic chains that even when you cast them off and say, I don't believe in Christianity and I'm moving into Satanism or diabolism, whatever, you still hold those chains for such a long time. Am I doing something wrong? Am I going to be hurt by summoning this spirit? No, you're not. That's what they want, because even after you cast the chains off, the marks still remain for a long time. Ran over.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it takes a long time to deprogram. I mean, it took me a very long time, and I attribute a lot of my addiction back decades ago to, I guess, running from who I really was. And so it takes a long time to undo all of that brainwashing. It really does.
It's such clever brainwashing, too. You got to give them credit. I mean, as I said, you can full-heartedly believe that you're like, I have nothing to do with this religion anymore. I cast it aside. I am completely against it. And you might believe yourself in that. But then you still catch those lingerings in your mind. And like I said, how many students I've had that they still question themselves during ritual, and they're like, I don't know, I wanted to call Lord Belial, and I just was so worried that he would destroy me when he came, because I mean he's the epitome of evil, and so they still go about it. They're like, I want to be a part of this life, but I the things I'm calling are evil. Well, you can take back that word and use it for a different means, because it's not evil like you believe it is. It's evil to your enemies, but it is helpful and growing to you, because it is not what you've been made to believe. So it does stick around for such a long time. And I think that's obstacle number one for anyone walking the left-hand path that has any type of Christian or Abrahamic religion in their family tree, because it'll stick around for years. And when you can finally renounce that fully, you will notice the progression of your ritual, and you will notice how quickly things will start to come together. But it might take years to get there, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the lucky ones are the ones who didn't have that in their background at all. And they're just like, hey, I'm adopting this new faith, and I'm moving into it. And I know you and I have similar ties as far as having a heavy influence from, African diasporic religions and faiths. I know that hoodoo took a very big part of you finding Satanism and you finding occultism. And I had been someone who always was very enthralled by hoodoo and voodoo and quimbanda and Yoruba and all of these different type of religions out there that didn't seem to have these dogmatic chains in the same sense as Christianity did here in the Western world. Their practices seemed so pure and so in tune, and that's what I always try to take with me, even though I did grow up in a Christian background. And I think that that's helped me transition many years back into my faith now.
Yeah, I think everything molds us as we travel the path. It makes us who we are at any given moment. And I was the same way. It was total freedom from the chains of doubt and shame and fear and all those other things that I had experienced in the church, in the established church, before I left. And, a lot of people, they grapple with that their entire life. I know I've had people contact me, and it's almost like they have 1 foot here and 1 foot over there, 1 foot on the left-hand path and 1 foot on the right-hand path. And it is absolutely destroying their lives. And, they are so deeply ingrained that they can't break the chains, but they want to make that move, but they just can't. It's almost like paralysis of analysis, and it makes them miserable, and it makes the people around them miserable, and they're so unhappy. And there's nothing that you can do to help them until they come to terms with what path they want to be on, and make that decision, because you can't dabble in both worlds.
You can't. You're setting yourself up for failure, because even if you don't realize it at a face value, internally you are setting yourself up for that eternal power struggle, that eternal tug of war. And it's going to plant seeds on both sides who will not work well together, and it will cause a lot of internal and external problems in your life down the road. You have to pick a side. And you have other people that say, and they misunderstand a lot of things. I'm a gray witch. I don't believe in left hand or right hand. I work them both. No, your intent of your practice doesn't have to be, if you're left hand, you're evil. If you're right hand, you're good. I have done many good things with my practice, with my rituals in this world. But I've also done very dark things as well, and I don't feel ashamed of them, because the first thing, folks, that Satanism will teach you is you are responsible for your own decisions. I don't blame anyone else in this life for anything other than myself. I have made my bed and I lie in it. So if I make a mistake, I fess up and own to that. And I also don't look at myself and say, oh, I did something bad and who can I blame? I did it. It was my choice. And once you can take that responsibility in everything that you do, you are not free. And you can do a practice where you do good and evil. Doesn't mean you're a gray witch or you walk the line between right and left. No, they're very different worlds than one another. So if you're saying that, it's just because you probably don't have a full understanding of the two, or you're trying to, once again, sound edgy. I do both sides. And no, you will have conflict if you do that. And Aleister, correct me if I'm wrong. Did I see you post up an article, or maybe you had him on your show or something? It was the cat that was the founder of the Satanist Church of South Africa, who all of a sudden now is like super Christian. Did you post that?
Yeah, I did a video on him. Yeah, he was head of the South African church, and then he says that he saw Jesus, and everything changed. So, there are so many people that they do not even know what they believe. And that's part of the problem. Another part is like we said earlier, social media is pumping this stuff at us 24 hours a day, and most of it is lies and unrealistic expectations. And it sets in motion something in the humans that is just, it takes the joy away from a person, because they're always measuring themselves against an unrealistic standard. And, it leads to people being depressed and suicidal, because they feel like they will never measure up. But having a relationship with Satanas and finding, at least for me, finding him was an anchor that I could always go into the world and do whatever I wanted to do with the satisfaction of knowing I had a relationship that was always going to be there and always was going to be strong. And the confidence of knowing that 90% of the people in the world that tell you they're happy and show you their new Lexus and their new home and all of the money they're making, they're miserable and they're empty. And 9 times out of 10, that is a lie. It's all done for show. So I think a lot of people just need to come to terms with that and understand that you can't put unrealistic expectations on yourself, because you will never find happiness.
You won't, and I believe that a lot of people, even on the left-hand path and in Satanism, are very lost on the truth behind it, because so many people in this path and external from this path will talk about Satanism being such a materialistic faith, and how it's all about giving yourself anything you want and indulging as much as you want. No, folks, it is about having no regret in indulging. If I choose to indulge heavily in anything that I want to, then I've done so at my own free will, and I feel no guilt for doing it. But it doesn't mean that we believe that you indulge to a point of excess and we just, drowned ourselves in it. No, it just removes the shackles of guilt, and it adds on that responsibility to it. But yes, so many people will flaunt their riches and this and that and all these things they have as if it shows that they have power, when really inside they're so empty. I would rather be the opposite. I would rather have nothing but be internally rich. And I've told people that when people say, don't you wish you were rich? No, because I already am. And I don't need anything to be rich. I already possess it. It was just a matter of finding it and having the right people behind you, or the right spirits behind you, to let me know exactly what I already possessed. So like this gentleman, he's seen Jesus. I did as well. I just call him Lucifer.
Yeah.
Now let me jump into a quick commercial break here, and we'll be right back after these couple messages from our sponsors on Knights of the Nephilim. Knights of the Nephilim podcast would like to thank our sponsor, Ars Gnosis. Ars Gnosis was formed by Diogo Cells Pimentel, an artist located in northeast of Brazil in the state of Bahia, which is the birthplace of the greatest artist in the country. Involved with occultism since 2009, starting in shamanic practices until reaching Western occultism through the paths of Luciferianism, Thelema, Goetic ceremonial magic, angelic and Enochian magic. Since 2017, he has added his art of drawing and painting to magical artifacts, putting the energy of his practice and personal research into the artistic and magical works that he creates. With the auspices of the great King Paimon that governs over all arts and sciences, you can find his work by searching Ars Gnosis on Facebook and Instagram. It is theurgical work channeled into magical tools made by an adept for adepts. Over time, his work has become known throughout the globe for the care and energy of the will applied to each and every piece that he creates. And with the motto that was propagated in greater proportion by Aleister Crowley, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," he applies the energy of the will of the initiatory path into each and every work. Once again, you can check him out by searching Ars Gnosis on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks, Diogo. Knights of the Nephilim podcast would like to thank our sponsor, Belladonna's Botanicals. Belladonna's Botanicals is owned by Jennifer Vatsa, a left-hand path and poison path witch, certified aromatherapist, herbalist, perfumer, skincare formulator, and incense crafter who designs and has created a massive product line consisting of over 300 products, with new ones being released every month. Belladonna's Botanicals provides high-quality, handcrafted metaphysical and self-care products, including flying ointments and oils, herbal tinctures and elixirs, herbal smoke blends, ritual oils, powders, incense, radionically charged crystals, ritual bath products, fragrances, and bath and body products. Jennifer draws inspiration from the spirits she works with, and they often have requests. Anecdotally adding that as she was creating her product lines for the dark goddesses and demonic gatekeepers, that King Paimon showed up requesting his own product line as well. She often directly channels what they would like to be included in their products, in addition to her own ritual workings along with known correspondences. She also has a popular left-hand path-oriented YouTube channel where she posts content on everything from podcasts with other occultists to her gnosis from working with different spirits and various topics pertaining to her craft and creations. You can check out her product line at www.belladonnasbotanicals.com. Again, that is belladonnasbotanicals.com. Or check out her videos on YouTube by searching her name, Jennifer Vatsa. That is Vatza. Thanks, Jen. Knights of the Nephilim podcast would like to thank our sponsor, Aragni Arcane Services. Aragni Arcane Services is a husband and wife duo comprised of Baron and Baronessa Aragni. With over 40 years of practical experience, they are masters of the occult arts through various practices and paradigms, such as necromancy, high magic, black witchcraft, and more. They are published authors under their own publishing house, the Arcane Press. They offer books, courses, spell work, consultations, ritual tools, and more. All of their products are handmade of the highest quality material and empowered through ancient rites. If you wish to know more about them or their business, or you require their services, please feel free to contact them at aragniarcaneservices.com. That is Aragni, ARAIGNEE, arcaneservices.com. And if you use promo code KOTN, you will get 10% off of your overall order or purchase as a special highlight of them being a sponsor of this show. Thank you so much, guys. All right, guys, we're back on Knights of the Nephilim radio show. We've been hanging out for the last hour with occult author and Satanic Magus of the magnum opus Satanic Order out of Florida. That is the one and only Aleister Nacht. We've been having a lot of conversation about what Satanism is, some of the strange things you see going on around the occult world today, and how people sometimes get into it for the wrong reasons or under the wrong assumptions, but also the ones out there who are also taking it very seriously. Now, before the break, we had talked about, and I'm going to bust a little bit of balls right now just because it's funny to do. There is a gentleman out there who had a satanic order in Africa and has since made, statements that he has found Jesus, and now he's promoting Jesus heavily. And I don't want to say I'm busting his balls because of that. The reason that I am busting his balls is the fact that I had actually approached this gentleman about a year or two ago to be on this show, and he turned it down. Which is fine. I don't mind someone turning down the show. Hey, maybe it's not the right thing for them. But I did follow his work a little bit as far as just watching what they were doing, and I was a little suspect of the fact of him even being a real Satanist. And then here it is a couple years later, this divine revelation of seeing Jesus Christ, and his entire life has changed. Now, there was a video that I was right in saying I thought that Aleister had posted this. He had posted up this gentleman's video, and I had watched it, and he's crying in it and shit, and he's talking about how his life's been saved and the Savior is here. I can only feel that this is for clout. I can only feel that he used Satanism for every drop of power and notoriety that he could get out of it. And once this was no longer working for him, or the charade couldn't be kept up any longer, that he switched teams, flipped the switch, and now he's getting as much popularity and buzz as he can, because when he made this statement, imagine the uproar in the satanic community, imagine the uproar in the Christian community. He's got all this buzz, all these likes and shares. His dopamine hits are just out through the roof right now. And these are the type of cats that I'm talking about that make a mockery of the thing that Aleister and I love, which is occultism and Satanism. And this is my opinion and my opinion only. I don't speak for Aleister, but I have to call bullshit on this guy's his new divine revelation.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that. I mean, this, I went back, because there were a lot of videos that he had done. So I went back a year, maybe 2 years or so, and watched almost all of them in chronological order. And one thing that I could kind of see in the videos is he was building a very almost like an anger with the public at large. So I don't know if, it was trolling or, what was going on there, maybe some kind of rift. I don't know. I can't speak to that, but it seemed very strange that he had this big experience. And now, I mean, he is going like gangbusters. He's doing these speaking engagements, and, obviously he's the darling of the right-hand path. But, yeah, I think, it's another example of people get into especially the left-hand path, they come over and, a lot of them want to be influencers. They want to be priests. They want to be recognized and this, that, and the other. And, when that gets old or it doesn't succeed the way they thought it was going to, then they're on to something else.
Yep. It doesn't last very long. It's the next fad. I mean, and even the people who last within the community, have a hard time staying focused. I've taken courses from other teachers out there in occultism to see what they had to offer. Even though I've always had a developed practice, I always said you can't learn enough. There's always a lot that you can add to your practice or new insight that you can take. So I've taken courses from different adepts out there, and one of them is Jason Miller, who has a very great course on Hecate sorcery, or Hecatean sorcery. It's called The Sorcery of Hecate, and there's 3 semesters of it, and each one dives into different aspects. He has one for St. Cyprian, and how to summon devils and demons. But one of the things and the reason I bring this up is in his course, he said this isn't for the person who's only going to want to do this for 3 months. This is a devotion. This is something you're going to do every single day. He says, because what I find is you're going to take this course, a lot of you, he says, and in a month from now, someone else that you're following is going to release a course. And you're going to be like, oh, shit, I need to take that course. And you're going to jump to that course. But then a month into that course, you're going to see someone else released one, and you're going to jump into that. No one can stay focused on anything longer than a month, 2 months, 3 months, as you mentioned earlier. And I feel that is partially mass media's fault because, it's like the Blockbuster effect. You used to go to Blockbuster and rent 5 movies for their 5 for 5 deal on the weekend, and you watched all 5 movies from start to finish, and you enjoyed them. But then whenever Redbox came out and then, all these other services like Netflix and things came out, now you have every movie you could ever want at the touch of your fingers, and you don't ever watch the full movie. You're jumping in between different shows. You have too many options to ever stay devoted to any one thing. And that's what happens is people get into this, they ride it out for a few months, maybe a year, and then they're like, well, I want to jump to something else now. And you're never really going to reap those benefits. People think they're going to have these profound interactions within the first 6 months, first year. I have been involved in Satanism since 2003 as a devoted practitioner. And I am still always having new insight and revelations and experiences and encounters that would not have been possible 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. And we're talking 20 years in. So, folks, you can't jump ship constantly. If you're going to be devoted, think it out before you say that you're devoted. Don't preach to the world that I am a devout Satanist. 6 months later, be like, I'm a Christian. You were never devout anything. You're just a clown looking for social media shares and likes, like this gentleman that we're talking about. I never found any real substance in anything that he posted. As you said, I didn't watch all of his videos, but I watched a good bit of them, and I never really seen him saying anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and I think the left-hand path is full of, some people have called them TikTok witches and things like that. They're wannabe influencers, and they just happen to use the left-hand path because they can look gothic and, be a little risque and, be a little bold in their approach. But, like we said, they're empty vessels.
And it's, it has become a fad. I mean, everything goes in like up and down patterns, but right now I've noticed over the last couple of years, that is like the pop culture big thing. There's a lot of movies coming out. There's a lot of shows coming out. I mean, there's like 3 different Netflix series all about witchcraft, and like I seen the preview for the one, and they're like in a college, and the college teaches witchcraft, and they're they're doing mudras and mantras, and they're like all of a sudden they're doing certain hand gestures and mudras, and demons are popping up in front of them, and all these things are happening, and it looks so cool and edgy, and they're like, it's a #1 hit right now. And this was about a year ago, but there was like 3 more shows that followed afterwards, and then there's all these songs coming out now and all this imagery coming out, and I'm like, man, they're making this a very big pop culture thing, and it's happened before, but right now is a hot time to be a TikTok witch. You're going to get all kinds of shares if you just play the role. And you know what? Like I've said before, everything has its place, but I don't respect it. I don't respect people pretending to be something they're not. I mean, you can put boxing gloves on and put boxing shorts on and stand in a gym, but it doesn't make you a fucking boxer. So, that's what and just like boxing, you fuck around long enough, you're going to find out. And if you get some of these real spirits, because I mean, I know there's people out there that believe they're not real spirits and it's all within you, and it's a whole different version of Satanism. If you fuck around long enough, these spirits will become very dissatisfied with you, and they can affect your life in very, very bad ways. But talking about which, I mean, one of the things we were going to talk about this evening is there are different paths of Satanism. There is obviously a very big side of Satanism being theistic Satanism, and then you have a very big atheistic Satanism. And you have organizations out there that I don't necessarily follow or agree with, but I'm sure they do have their place. And you don't have to speak on it if you don't want to, because you are a man of notoriety and power, and I don't want to, have you say anything that could come back on you. But what are your thoughts on organizations like the Satanic Temple?
Well, the only thing that I can say about them is I get contacted by so many of their previous members, or at least they say they were previous members. And the only thing that I can say is that I think a lot of people go into that expecting something more than what they get, and they end up feeling like, and this is their words, not mine, feeling like it's more of an activism organization than it is a true satanic coven.
Absolutely.
And most of those people that contact me were confirmed atheists. And to have them contacting me and now having me, have phone calls with them, and I do a lot of ministering to people. I have probably about 20 phone calls a week with people who, in some cases, just want to be able to say what they can't say anywhere else. Because they would be looked at like had a third eye or a horn or something. But they do believe, and they are seeking. But the only thing I can say is that, in my experience, a lot of people have gone there expecting something different, and they leave because their spirit is not fed. Now, I've had people that I interviewed that, are very vocal. It's not my place to bash them. Everybody has their own beliefs. Everybody has their own opinion about things. But I can just say from my experience, a lot of people that come out of that organization, they're looking for something more. They were missing out on the theistic part of it.
Well, and you handled that very professionally, and just as I knew you would. You said two things that really resonate with me on that, is that just like the TikTok witches who use this lifestyle as a way of getting, buzz and getting likes and shares, I feel that they have done a similar thing but with politics. They have found a way to use Satanism in their politics and use that as the face of it. So you can you can build and erect a monument of Christianity here. Well, then we should, not because we want to push for Satanism so strongly, but if you can do that, then we can do this. It's about a way of just stouting your power and saying, well, we the people should have the right to make choices for the things we want in opposition of what the regular norms are. So I get where they're coming from that. But it's like they've done a kind of a tailspin there where we're going to add that satanic icing to it. So you can have a Christian monument where we'll build a giant Baphomet, and we'll have Baphomet for the children classes where we teach children Satanism, but you're not actually teaching them Satanism. You're teaching them political Satanism, and you're teaching them political atheistic Satanism. So it was like they found a way to really tap into a niche market and just use that kind of as their term. Now, like I said, everything has its own place, but two things that I feel that shouldn't be involved, and this is my own personal belief, folks, me only. Two things I don't believe should ever be incorporated into true Satanism is politics and atheism. So when you bring in both of them, I have to really question what's going on there. But as I said, I'm not bashing them. Everybody has their own place. But I love to hear that members are leaving there because their spirit is not being fed, because they are being taught atheistic Satanism and not being able to touch the source. A lot of people, as you said, are ashamed to be looked at or demified because they say that they believe in spirits or these beings as real beings, being theistic. And it's such a paradox to me, because I think it is much more absurd to say I believe in nothing than I believe in these spirits. Every day, phenomena happens all around us. There are all kinds of powerful currents out there. There's been way too many things that have happened in each and every one of our lives, if you take the time to look at it and as an overall whole, to deny these sources. So for someone to say it's much more plausible to believe in nothing than to believe in these, that's an absurdity to me. So that's why so many people will leave these organizations and will say, I'm looking for more. And for those that are devout and disciplined in that, they will have those experiences that after they do, they'll never go back to those same old beliefs. I can promise you, the first time that you do a ritual invocation, evocation of a spirit, and it works powerfully, you will never go back to not believing that that's real.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It's just crazy what's happened, Aleister, in this crazy occult world that we love so much. I mean, yes, it's funny because I started out as you did and as so many others did with LaVeyan Satanism, but not that I was a LaVeyan Satanist. I started out from a structure that had merit to it, that was the sparks of the inferno for me. And even though I didn't believe everything that Anton said, I found truth in his words that led me to my path and allowed me to build from there. But I was always theistic. From day one, I believed that these spirits were real, and I encountered them as real, and I summoned them as real. And that is what has always been a part of my practice. So it has its own validity as a starting ground, but I really think that there's just so much missing for the groups out there that do choose to believe that it's all internal. Now, what I've taught a lot of people is that both are right. Theistic and atheistic are right. That it is internal, it's only you, but then it's not only you. You are pushing forth a frequency out of you of stored up personal power in a very structured ritual setting to be able to cast forth out as a radio transmitter into the ethos this frequency that allows for manifestation to happen. There are natural currents in the world that exist that will reciprocate that. So as you push your frequency out, these primordial sources will pick up those frequencies, and together, when they mix just like fine chemistry, it will create a certain reaction. That reaction will cause physical manifestation, visual, audible, and sensatory manifestation, and then you will experience it on the external plane. So it is very much required that you yourself, as your own personal God, the atheistic standpoint that it is only you, that's a part of it. You are the one casting forth and creating change in this manifest material world. But the external forces outside of you mix with the internal that you have projected to cause that manifestation, and that together will cause external and internal change. So it is very much both parts. You can't have one without the other, but in saying that, itself proves that these things are real after you experience them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I get questions about, you know, why can't we see certain things? Or, you know, if this is real, show me.
Don't you hate that question right there?
And I have to explain that, first of all, as humans, we're in 3 dimensions, and we don't have the cognitive and the physical equipment to be able to see interdimensionally. That's number 1. Number 2, you can't see magnetic fields, okay? You can take a compass out, you can see what it does to a compass, but you can't see them, but they're real. You can't see the wind. It's real. You can see what the wind picks up, but you can't see the wind. These are all different illustrations of the same thing. We don't have the equipment to be able to see those things. Like some animals and insects can see a huge spectrum of light that we can't see. They can hear things we can't hear. It's the limitation of us as a human to be able to perceive these things, and you can only do it through the gnosis and through the actual spiritual side of it. Satan is not going to show up and walk in the room. It's going to be through the spirit and through the ephemeral that you experience it, and that experience is just as real as in person. But that's what a lot of people don't figure out. They're looking for that affirmation immediately. And you made a good point a minute ago about how, you know, how people's attention span is so short now. And, you know, if people don't see what they think they should see or experience what they think they should experience, they're on to something else. And the problem with that is they come into that situation with expectations that are not accurate, expectations that are not what they would experience if they would have been open-minded and had accepted the gnosis. You know, things are not going to be the way that the person wants them to be. They can actually be so much better than what the person envisioned. But they go into that particular path or relationship or practice or whatever with the wrong expectation. Instead of going in with the clear mind, what the Japanese call mushin, just the clean slate of mind, and allow things to happen and experience them like that, there's so much more of a blessing in that. And there's so much more wisdom and knowledge and gnosis to be taken from that experience as well.
And you said it. I mean, if you are not open, You're closing out the possibilities. You go in with a set mindset of it's going to be this or nothing. And then nothing happens because it was never going to be this. And because you're this or nothing, it is nothing. But if you were to clean your slate, go in and allow it to be as it is, it could be 2, 3, 4 times more profound than what you had even expected. But because you were so closed and guarded, you did not allow it to be what it is. And one thing I will bring up that a lot of left-hand path practitioners don't talk about or don't practice, and it's my own personal belief, is there are merits to certain, what some would even call right-hand path practices, that they certainly extend, well beyond that, but things like fasting. And
yes,
fasting is an amazing tool. If you can learn to intermediate fast or fast altogether days before a large ritual, you are once again, as Aleister just said in a different way, cleansing the slate. You are clearing the mind. It is amazing how much clearer your mind will be if you clean that slate and fast. Another one is to not ejaculate days before a ritual, because it'll build up stored personal power, the dragon fire power. And that power will help raise the kundalini. That power will help bring forth successful operations and make for more powerful and resonant rituals. And the thing about it is, and I mentioned this earlier, and I'll kind of bring this full circle here, is I can have as much sex or as much lust or as much indulgence as I want and feel no shame for it, because I own my own reality. I am the God of my world. But as I said earlier, it doesn't mean that I senselessly indulge, because just as much as I can indulge in endless amounts of it, I also don't let it run my life. And once you learn to rule those urges in life and not let those urges rule you, you have a power that most don't. When you can go into a ritual and have no urges of hunger, no urges of sleep, no urges of earthly desires, you are the master of your world. You go in openly and allow those powers that you're wishing to connect with to connect properly and not restrain them. They will come and they will show you just life-changing things, but you have to be willing to do the work for it and know that it doesn't come easy. And that's why I mentioned earlier spending countless hours of meditation and ritual and stretching and focusing on energy centers of your body and the chakras, because these things are the prerequisites of a successful ritual, but they're the training. You don't just jump into the ring and box. You train first or else you get killed. And that's why a lot of people fall out of this. And it's one thing I'll give the Golden Dawn credit for. They would teach their neophytes that for a year's time you will do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram and hexagram in the morning and at night before bed. And in the morning and at night before bed, every single day for an entire year or longer before you advance to anything else. They did this for 2 reasons, because it built discipline and it allowed you to really focus that energy, but also that weeded out those who weren't serious about this. How many people said, fuck this, I'm 2 months in and they had me do the same stupid-ass thing every morning, I quit. And that's what they wanted. They were weeding out the weak, but they were also teaching you a discipline and to be firm and to be clear, so that first time you actually step into the circle, you were ready for war. You were trained. And that was the purpose, people. You have to do the prerequisite work to make the big changes happen.
Absolutely. There are a lot of parallels between this path and martial arts.
Oh, absolutely.
The building the stamina and the concentration and doing the repetitive things over and over and over again. Those are the things that rewrite your mind. They rewrite the circuitry, and they change your entire outlook on life. And, fasting, as you said, fasting to me is the most powerful sacrifice that you can make.
Yes.
Because you are taking away the essence, the essential thing from yourself. You're depriving yourself of that. That is the ultimate sacrifice. You know, some people will say, well, you know, I want to do a sacrifice because I've heard sacrifices are this, that, and the other. And I'll say, well, great, just start fasting. And they're like, what do you mean? You know, and I ask, well, what did you think this was going to be? You were going to, you know, kill a cat or something? That was going to be a sacrifice? That's bullshit. And I think it goes in with more of the uneducated masses that are so deeply ingrained in the lies of the right-hand path. All of that was, you know, the 1980s satanic panic, you know, killing of animals and all this kind of stuff that was ultimately proven to be untrue. Yes, there were some crazy people out there doing stuff, but it wasn't because they were Satanists. But the fasting itself takes away the thing that you absolutely need and have to live. And it produces some powerful, powerful results. Absolutely.
It absolutely does. I mean, the three things that are instilled into our mind is we are creatures that are here to eat, to fuck, and to sleep. And those are the three things that you can all use as a method of furthering your practice. Is there are people that, and I've done all three, but I'll tell you one of the three I have a real hard time with. I can fast. I can go without eating, and that is the most powerful of the three. Secondly, abstaining from sex or from release is very powerful as well. It's right up there with it. There's other people that will get small amounts of sleep for 2 weeks before a ritual, or they'll survive off of 4 hours of sleep for 2 weeks straight. They will not ejaculate. They will eat very little for a week or two before a ritual. And those three things together, if you can do, absolutely you'll have a profound experience. Now, I can go without the sex. I can go without eating for a period of time. I can't do the sleep. I can go with little sleep, but I can't go 2 weeks for 4 hours of sleep at night. It just doesn't work for me. It's the opposite. I'll fall asleep in the middle of a ritual. But those three things are very, very powerful. And as you said, people want to believe that sacrifice is something easy. If I sacrifice an animal, well, that's easy to me because even though it might be a moral dilemma, it's something outside of myself. It's not hard. But you know what is hard? Go 4 days without eating. That's hard. Yeah. And it builds that true honor, and that when you're giving a spirit an offering, you're saying, I am offering to you my dedication that I will starve for you, that I will be sleep deprived for you. I will not indulge in physical lust for you for X amount of time to bring forth that which I have requested. And if you do so, I will give you further offerings to show my devotion. And that is how successful operations work. And as you said, repetition, you know, anybody that's performed old school magic, I mean, we're talking things like, you know, and I hate to be cliche, but let's talk the Megaton and like the Goetia. How many times do you have to just repeat those incantations over and over and over again before it brings forth change? But the power that's built up in those words and the repetition and the discipline to learn it word by word is what brings it. Poke Runyon will tell you. I loved watching his old videos. He would repeat.
I do too.
He would repeat those incantations like 40 times, and he was so into it. But he would tell you by memorizing every word and repeating them, he would have profound experiences. He had his Frater Solomon would scry for him in some of those old videos back in the day, and they would bring forth some pretty wild divination, where they were, you know, saying things that were to come a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, that were on a very large scale. They were doing it successfully because they were dedicated and their practice and dedication is everything. Now, I will make a quick side note before we ask you your last questions here and wrap up for the evening. But one of the statements I did want to say is, yes, there was a very big misunderstanding that Satanists are out there killing cats and sacrificing animals and children and all these things. And I'm sure over the history of time, there have been some radicals who have done things like that, but that in itself generally is not satanic. But what most people in a Western world listening right now need to understand that even animal sacrifice has its place in practice to certain cultures. So when we hear that, it's automatically something that most Americans or most people from a Western world will say that's ridiculous. But what they don't understand is it's not out there causing that animal the most pain that you can. It's actually the opposite. To finish that creature off as quickly and painlessly as possible as an offering, and then a lot of times those cultures would then eat that animal afterwards as a shared offering amongst the members of that collective, just as you would. And the problem is, and that's programming as well, is that we will go out to a drive-through, to fast food, to a restaurant, or go to the supermarket, and we'll pick up packets of steaks and chicken, come home and cook it, not even thinking of the animal that we're eating. We don't even give it a second thought, because we feel no guilt, we feel no shame, we just eat and devour. But it is no different than a culture of people out there offering it to their gods quickly and painlessly for a spiritual end and then eating it amongst their people. They are just, willing to balls up and do it themselves. They're willing to get the blood on their hands than to go to the supermarket and buy it and push it out of mind, out of sight. And I just wanted to say that, not that I'm advocating for sacrifice, but what I'm saying is so often I've had people with a misunderstanding. Oh, they're kidnapping the neighbor's dog and killing it. No, I'm sure there's people who have done that. And that's horrible. And that is not Satanism. That's not even occult practices in most cases. That's anarchists and radicals. But there are people out there who engage in that in a proper way. And they do so because of their heritage or beliefs. And it's no different than you going to the supermarket. But what is different is that blood is a magnetic fluid, and it can be used to bring forth profound change as well, if done properly. But they're doing it in a way respectfully to that animal and to their God. I just wanted to clear that up as someone who's been practicing for a very long time and seeing a lot of misconception. But by no means am I advocating for you to go out and do this. Now, Aleister, before we finish for the evening, I would like you to tell us a couple things. What are you working on right now that we can expect coming up? Where can we check you out at? And what time on Sunday are you doing the Global Rite so that people can tune in?
That will be at 7 o'clock on Sunday night on my YouTube channel. It'll last about an hour, I guess. As far as getting in touch with me, YouTube, you can leave comments. I try to answer all comments on videos. Twitter is probably the best, just for passive, hello, how are you type things. My Patreon is probably the best as far as if you want to talk, if you want to spend time. I devote most of my time and energy to my Patreons. I share a lot of videos, a lot of audio, a lot of pictures and things like that I don't put out on mainstream media. And I have a lot of conversations with my Patreons. That's part of the benefit of being a Patreon. And that's probably the best ways to connect. I'm probably not going to be doing as much on the other social media outlets like Facebook. I guess as I get older, I find that there's just less time, less hours in the day. And, I guess that's just part of the natural cycle as well. But those are probably the best ways to get in touch with me.
You heard it, folks. Make sure you follow his platforms out there. If you can, and you can stick aside the money per month, it is certainly affordable and worth it for you to become a patron at his Patreon. And I, certainly advise doing so. Tune in at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Sunday for the Global Rite for Samhain. It is powerful. You will not be displeased. I have seen it in the past, and I admire this man and his work, and I know you will as well. So please support him in any way that you can. If you want to learn Satanism from a true source, pick up his books, whether it be the book of Satanic Magic or the book of Satanic Rituals, whether it be his Devil Worship book or any of the others in between. There is a slew of books. I can't even tell you how many Aleister has at this point. Probably 13, 14 books out at this point, and they are phenomenal, and every one of them will teach you profound messages. See, the way that you know you found someone great is when you read each one of his books, and each one of them teaches you something new on the same subject matter that you are not finding elsewhere. You can read 15 other Satanist books out there, and they all say the same shit, but when someone starts telling you why the room temperature changes when a spirit comes, when someone starts explaining exactly why the mechanics of ritual work, you have someone who's actually doing the ritual, and that's the place that you need to be. So support this man and what he is doing. And other than that, Aleister, once again, my brother, I am honored to have you on the show. I appreciate you giving me your time this evening, and for our listeners out there, and may you have a blessed and powerful, fruitful Samhain.
Thank you, brother, and thank you to your listeners. I encourage them to continue to support your channel, supporting your podcast. We have to support each other on this path when there's good content being delivered. And as always, brother, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Anytime. I look forward to having you back again down the road, and thank you for your words. Other than that, to my listeners out there, make sure you tune back in next week, because this is an off week, but we came in with a special episode. You're kind of really getting triple teamed here. You had last week, this week, and then what would be our normal scheduled week next week. We have Nate Bells with us as a return guest as well, talking about just what we were speaking of, the mechanics of ritual and black magic. You won't want to miss it. And other than that, make sure you tune into my other shows, share them around, hit the like, share, and follow button, and just support in any way that you can. I appreciate it. I love each and every one of you. Same to you, Aleister. Much love to you, my brother. And we will catch you next time on Knights of the Nephilim Radio. We're going to finish out with these sponsors' messages. Have a great, safe night and a great Samhain. Knights of the Nephilim podcast would like to thank our sponsor, Goetic Impressions. Goetic Impressions is a company dedicated to the faithful creation of advanced ritual tools by following grimoire guidelines as closely and as feasibly as they can in the modern world. Follow them on Instagram, Facebook, or their website, goeticimpressions.com, to stay informed on new projects and limited-time items that they roll out frequently. For listeners of Knights of the Nephilim podcast, you can use the promo code KOTN10 for 10% off of your overall order. Again, that is KOTN10 for 10% off of your overall order. And make sure you check out their Facebook, Instagram, and website. Once again, the website is www.goeticimpressions.com. Again, that is goeticimpressions.com for absolutely everything for your ritual needs. Fantastic items, quality items, greatly priced, quick shipping. Can't speak highly enough about these guys. Absolutely wonderful team, and I'm glad to have partnered with them. Thanks, guys. Knights of the Nephilim podcast would like to thank our sponsor, the Telemancer. Let me first tell you a little bit about their owner, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about them. James Hunter Ralston has been a member of the Order of the Voltec, starting in 2008 and progressing through several degrees, last serving as head of the Outer Order. The Order of the Voltec is an offshoot of a pylon of the Temple of Set, originated to study and practice several forms of the sorceress methods centering on techniques used by Mexican and other Central American priests and magicians. Many of the techniques involved were popularized in the late 1970s and 80s by Carlos Castaneda. Over the decades since his first experience with magic, his desire has grown into the creation and use of what other shamanic sorcerers term as power objects, talismans, amulets, totems, and other powerful objects. His interests expanded to the degree that he chose to become an apprentice of several Appalachia's premier craftspeople and learn the art of metalcraft to produce power objects for both himself and select patrons. He does work with gold, pewter, silver, and sometimes other metals as well. He has been doing this for over 8 years. He does create talismans, pendants, rings, altarpieces, and more, almost all exclusively by custom commission. And you can check out his stunning work at facebook.com/thetelemancer1. Again, that is facebook.com/thetelemancer1. All as one word. Thank you so much. Knights of the Nephilim podcast would like to thank our sponsor, Limitless Liberation. I'll read you about this wonderful company from their owner, Elena. Limitless Liberation was inspired by both Lucifer and Belial. Lucifer has been with me most of my life, as far back as I could remember. Belial and I started to work when I was going through a very difficult part of my life. He completely turned mine and my family's life around for the better in a very short period of time. In return, he asked me to create what he called Charger for him. He showed me the designs, so I created the first Charger for Belial, and Lucifer wanted one next. From there, I had spirits lining up with requests for magical items. Some are control freaks, while others just inspire. They are all so individually different, but every single item created has power within it. Each item operates on many levels. They operate as an anchor for the spirit you're working with, thus aiding easier connection between the two of you. They also operate like a power cell or battery, where they already come with an inherent energy to them, but they become stronger as you feed them and pull from them during ritual, as well as to strengthen your workings. Limitless Liberation continues to grow to honor the spirits that we love to work and build relationships with. You can check her shop out at etsy.com/shop/Limitless Liberation. Again, that is etsy.com/shop/Limitless Liberation.